So I would like to show you how I made the player movement. So in Grid Manager, this is what I've got for how to move player 1. So when I spawn and everything, right at event begin play, I've got the enable input and get player controls. That way my keyboard can start inputting stuff into the game. Before I get over to player controls, I'll go through the spawning of things. So I've got my grid, so my row name, because I've got a data table, and my structure, how the grid does spawn. So the data table goes through the loops. It's added to the Y column of my spawning, and then the array goes through the row column ones, which loop around through the X. And because my data table, as you can see, I've got 3 different inputs: 0s, 1s, and 2s. If it is a 0, it spawns a floor. If it's a 1, it spawns a wall. And if it's a 2, it spawns a breakable wall. But for my movement, so when the arrow keys are selected, it makes sure to see if the player is dead. If the player is not dead, then on a 1 or a -1, it will do it once, and it will do this. So what happens here is on a -1 or a 1, so let's go through the -1, it will do a sequence of finding the current node, which is placed when the player is spawned. So it's set to player 1's current node and set to player 2's current node. We'll find that, go -1 to the X, and it will put it into the grid, and it will find that specific node, and if it does find it, it'll add it to the branch, and it'll carry on the sequence, and then it'll find if it's an object, and if it isn't, it'll find out if it's breakable. And if it isn't breakable, then it'll set the node so that the next part of the sequence can go off, where it puts the location, it teleports the player into that location. That is the same for the bottom movement, only instead of -1 in the X, it is +1. That way the player can move up and down with the arrow keys. It is the exact same for the left and right movement. And then once it is done moving, it will a short delay so that you can't so that it doesn't go mad with power and move indefinitely. And by indefinitely I mean more than once in one short button press. Then it will activate player 1 death. So if the player is dead, it'll find that out when you move.